Hello everybody and welcome to another Darkest Dungeon mod overview. My name is ElementFive and today we're taking a look at the Succubus class. This is the second transformation class coming out of the Carnifex and Von Krolok team, this time in conjunction with Saz, with original concept art and comic by Jazz, and lore and concept by Monk Wolf. The Succubus class is a lot of fun in that it is different than a lot of other classes. It is really themed around stress relief, mental manipulation, and kind of life drain, which is pretty sweet. The way that it works too is that it essentially will debuff enemies or allies in order to gain strength herself, and that plays out really well and in really interesting ways. Now, according to Wikipedia, a succubus is a demon in female form that appears in dreams and takes the form of a woman in order to seduce men, usually through sexual activity. In modern representations, succubus may or may not appear in dreams, but are often depicted as highly attractive, seductress, or enchantress, where in the past they were generally depicted as frightening and demonic. Now, the interesting thing about Darkest Dungeon and even games like World of Warcraft is they are both derivatives in large part by the works of H.P. Lovecraft and the cosmic horror genre. And interesting to note that H.P. Lovecraft, as a child, talked about experiencing sleep paralysis episodes, also, by the way, known as old hag syndrome, okay? And it was during that time of H.P. Lovecraft's childhood and during those particular paralysis episodes in which he came up with this sort of concept of what he called night gaunts, which had a vaguely human shape, sported a pair of inward-facing horns on their head, a long barbed tail, and prehensile paws, which were used to, quote, tickle their victims into submission. They can also fly using a set of membranous wings. And if you know anything about Warcraft lore, then you also know that it is largely written and based on and influenced by H.P. Lovecraft and the cosmic horror genre. This is especially if you get into the old gods and aesthetics around a lot of the stuff you see in Battle for Azeroth, but then there's the unforgettable, demon summon succubus character, the pet that you can summon as a warlock, which displays all of the sort of night gaunt characteristics. Now, this particular design of a succubus is fun in that it is basically the embodiment of the sort of sacred/profane dichotomy. She's either in disguise in her priestess form or then transforms into her more demonic appearance. And according to the description on Steam, hiding under the disguise of a defenseless priestess, the succubus slowly drains the life force from those around her by using her demonic curses and subtle mental control. When the moment is right, she reveals her true nature by summoning her demonic self to bring havoc upon those that oppose her. She does not immediately become effective in combat. She needs to absorb the life force from living things around her, enemies and allies alike. Her damage potential grows with the length of the dungeon. In her first form, she relies on commanding allies, distributing marks, and silencing stress casters. But once transformed, there is no way back. She gets stronger by absorbing life from all allies each turn. And we get a really excellent comic strip here by Jazz, the original concept and comic artist. And it begins right here in the top left frame as we see a clothed individual keeling over, and now a greater shot, a silhouette of the 6 pilgrims on their journey to the hamlet. One by one, members of the pilgrimage are falling to exhaustion, unable to continue the journey, and now we see only 4 members left. And now the last 2 surviving members, the succubus and the bearded man, as he keels over, the succubus placing her hand upon him, seemingly drawing in some of his last life energy to feed herself, as she finally makes it all alone to the hamlet. Really love how identifiable the hamlet here is in this last frame. So it begs the question, did the succubus sort of steal the life essence out of the other pilgrims on their journey over to the hamlet on the way, or was she just the last surviving member? So as we always do, we're going to take just a quick snapshot at the base stats and resistances here. Nothing too interesting in terms of the resistances. Low trap disarm, decent debuff resist. I think the more interesting thing is to take a look right here at the max HP. Only 15 as an apprentice succubus. So this is just very, very fragile. We do get a decent amount of dodge here coming out of the fact that we have evasive, so that's kind of nice. But for the most part, kind of a glass cannon class, and that's because she really has a ton of mark synergy. When we look at her abilities, she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 abilities out of her kit that have mark synergy, and then her Harvest Reaper having bleed synergy. However, 2 of these abilities are guard abilities, and so that is really sort of underscoring the fact that she is a glass cannon and she relies on a little bit of babysitting because she is that fragile. Also worth interesting to note that she can only visit the brothel. So you can only be bringing, which is totally on theme, by the way, that you can only visit a brothel with the succubus, and you can only have 1 succubus per party. And interesting to note that her crit effects add +2 points of max HP until the end of combat, which just gives her slightly more survivability. Now, another thing to point out before we just jump into each of her abilities too is the fact that while she's a transformation class and she does come out of the stagecoach with all these unlocked, and like many transformation classes, you have your transformation ability, you have your human form, and then you also have your sort of more demon form back here. For the most part, she is a stress healer. She is a transformation class who relies on her charm and her abilities to manipulate people, and so she's not actually stressing people out when she transforms or when she uses her abilities. What she is doing in a lot of cases, however, is drawing off of the life energy and power of both enemies and allies, which is pretty fun, and you have to be a little bit careful about how you use that. So let's jump into it and take a look at her first ability here, which is Revelation. This is her transformation. Only used per battle once. So you can only use this once in any combat. You can use it in any position. It will move you all the way up into position 1. It is also a group stress heal of -2 stress at level 1. And this is the kicker. This is where things get interesting. Each turn, steal 1 hit point per ally and gain 1% damage per ally. When revealed, self change back to human. So at the end of combat, she just changes back. Now, what this means down here then is, as long as you are in demon form and you use any of her demon abilities, the cost of that will be that she steals 1 HP from an ally and gain 1% damage through combat. That is something you need to take into consideration because you can definitely kill an ally at death's door simply by just being in demon form and attacking. So the first ability then in her human kit is Silent Curse. Silent Curse can be used in position 2, 3, or 4. It can target any enemy in any position. It is a ranged attack with an accuracy base 95. It does no damage. It marks a target. And this is the kind of fun stuff down here that you're going to get with the Succubus. Disables stress skills, as well as steal 5 dodge. And what that effectively means is debuff the enemy that you're marking for -5 dodge, and she gains 5 dodge, which is kind of cool. Now, this disable stress skills here is pretty fun because what this means is you can use this mark on, say, like a madman, and literally just force the madman to pass its turn until that debuff runs off a turn later, which is pretty cool. So next in her human kit then is Demonic Leeching. This is her ramping damage ability. You can use this twice per battle. You can only use it in rank 3 or 4, and it targets the entire enemy team. It's a ranged attack with accuracy base 85. It does no damage. It steals 1% damage per target hit, and it has a stun chance versus marked targets. So again, when you are stealing 1% damage per target hit, you are effectively debuffing 1% damage on all enemies, and then she is gaining, assuming you hit all 4 enemies, plus 4% damage until camp. So you can use this twice per battle and immediately get yourself up to plus 8% damage until camp. Now, the stun synergy with Mark is pretty fun because if you were to start the combat with Silent Curse and mark a target, or if you start in round 1 and you have another ally mark a target, then just by using her ramping ability here and also landing a stun is a kind of a nice combo. So the last ability then in the human kit is My Hero. My Hero can be used in any position. It moves the Succubus back 1. It forces another ally to guard the Succubus as well as stress heals them, but it also buffs that ally for 20% damage and 10 accuracy versus marked. So not often that you get a force guard that also buffs marked damage, and it's kind of a cool theme here, the idea that she's playing with her charm to sort of get somebody into the line of fire here and protect her, and also synergize with the targets that she has marked out. The 20% damage and accuracy versus marked, kind of powerful, but if you think about the classes that you're going to have sort of forcing guard on the Succubus in general, Man-at-Arms, that kind of thing, you know, not usually benefiting from mark synergy. So kind of cool to see those classes actually get some mark synergy as well as guarding her.
Another abomination, cleansed from our lands.
So now that we understand how she plays in her human form, let's go ahead and hit Revelation, send her to the front line, de-stress the group, and allow her to spread her demonic wings. And her first attack in demon form is Scythe Swing. Scythe Swing is a melee attack, can only be used in position 1 or 2. It targets enemies in position 1, 2, or 3. An accuracy base 75 plus 5% crit modifier. This has armor piercing and bypasses guard, assuming because it is so sharp and so long. 10 accuracy versus marked and 10% crit versus marked. So again, maybe you have more, you have another ally that can mark a target, or you can start with Silent Curse and then send her into Revelation and then go for Scythe Swing. A decent attack, can hit up to rank 3, which makes this kind of powerful in a lot of mark synergy.
Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all.
Next in her demon kit is Harvest Reaper. Harvest Reaper is a melee attack that sends her forward 1, can be used all the way back into position 3, 1, 2, or 3, and it targets all enemies in position 1, 2, and 3. It has an accuracy base 85, minus 75% damage modifier, and minus 6% crit modifier. So it doesn't do a lot of damage, but that is because it has armor piercing and it bleeds all 3 targets for 1/3. Really, I think just to kind of be a little bit of a grape shot, have just a little bit, just one single sort of sweeping AoE attack here that also just kind of bleeds the targets. So last but not least in her demon form is Protect Your Goddess. Now this is easily the most interesting of her abilities. Protect Your Goddess is a ranged attack that can be used in any position and it targets any enemy. It has an accuracy base 95, it does no damage. It has a 4-round cooldown, so once you use this, you will not be able to use this again for 4 turns. It marks the self and an enemy target, and this is the real kicker. It forces an enemy to guard the Succubus. That's right, it forces an enemy to guard the Succubus. It also has an 80% stun chance on that enemy, and if you use this on a stunned enemy, you get an extra guard duration. So, when you use Protect Your Goddess, you want to use it very, very carefully and essentially decide on this next round, which enemy would you like to have receive a blow from the other enemies you are fighting. The fact that she marks herself and marks the target also improves the chances that the Protect Your Goddess will actually direct damage to the enemy guarding her. Now it's important to note that the duration of this guard is actually quite low, so if you use it on a stunned enemy and get that +1 guard duration, it's going to be more powerful for sure. But I've used this several times and have seen that guard just almost immediately fall off. But used at the right time, it can be pretty powerful.
fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
So now that we have just a general breakdown of what each ability does, let's talk about group compositions and sort of a more detailed look at how to use her. Now, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of her abilities come with some form of mark synergy. So taking her with mark groups is obviously a really interesting way to play her. Again, if you're using demonic leeching, if somebody has marked a target and you want to use demonic leeching to debuff the damage done by the enemy team and start to ramp up her damage, that is obviously a really nice synergy because you're going to be stunning whatever you have already marked. She can do the mark, but it's just a little bit slower. Now, the fact that demonic leeching is leeching 1% damage per target hit at max plus 8% damage if you use both uses of this each battle means the longer that you play her in a dungeon without camping, the more powerful she is to get. So if you're going to take her on like a short run, you're just not going to see a lot of efficacy in her actual damage ramp. Really, she's going to shine the longer the dungeon is. Now, if you take a look at something like Scythe Swing has that armor-piercing bypass guard, and it reaches rank 3, which makes her viable against bosses where you really need to reach the back line, reach rank 3, like the Hag, for example. But that armor-piercing really, really phenomenal against high-prot enemies like Thing from the Stars. Because she is using her attacks here in Succubus form and they are draining 1 HP per ally every attack, it is worth considering bringing a Vestal with AoE heals. And I feel like that is the most reliable synergy as a healer that she has, because over time, that slowly just ticks down on the rest of your team, and to bring that back up with an AoE heal is nice. So we need to talk just a little bit more about Protect Your Goddess, because this is definitely the most unique and innovative ability she comes with. The fact that you are forcing an enemy to guard her and marking both the enemy and self, you know, I also have yet to have anybody in my community really cry overpowered about this yet. And I think it's because it has a very short duration as well as a very long cooldown, and it's hard to know the right time to really make this shine. And don't forget that both the Voivode in last video and the Succubus come with their own standalone district mod known as the Cursed Ground, which gives the Succubus and Voivode plus 15% damage if transformed, and stress heal from Unholy Curios, 8% death blow with the Darkspawn mechanic from the Voivode. So this definitely will also benefit her overall efficacy. Now, in terms of the camping skills for the Succubus, she has a full set of unique camping skills. And actually, if we just go ahead and take a look at the Survivalist here and bring her in here, during camping, the Succubus won't care about others. On the outside, she offers consolation and friendship, but she is secretly weaving her strings in the background using a blend of manipulation, seduction, and mind magic. And that is pretty much how her camping abilities feel. They are all about stress relief, seduction, and kind of like magic leech, which is pretty fun. And that starts with Sower of Discord. Sower of Discord is a time cost 2, self-only minus 15 stress, all companions, a coin flip, minus 10 stress, but then an additional coin flip of plus 10 stress. So a little bit of fun here, and kind of just a replacement for Calm. So then what follows is Human Warmth. Time cost 2, self only, plus 6 max HP for the next 4 battles, and minus 10 stress. One companion minus 6 max HP for 4 battles, and they also get minus 10 stress. So I really like this ability, and I think it sort of underscores, you know, who she is as sort of a life leech and as somebody who is a seductress. The fact that also she is basically a glass cannon and has a very low HP pool, to be able to steal just a little bit of hit points from, you know, say a Man-at-Arms or something that has a high HP pool in your party, and de-stress both, is pretty cool. So next then is Jealousy. Time cost 2. One companion gets plus 35% guard duration for 4 battles, minus 30% stress damage received while guarding, and plus 10 stress damage received when not guarding for the next 4 battles. So this is kind of neat. The idea that she is really just kind of, she's picked out somebody in the party that she really admires or loves or wants to seduce, and is going to be using My Hero on, right? So you're going to be forcing guard on another ally, buffing them for damage versus marked, accuracy versus marked, but they're going to get more benefit in the form of stress damage reduced as well as a longer guard duration so long as she picks them. So next in is Innocent Prayers. Time cost 2, self only, heal 100% HP, remove mortality debuffs, but all companions suffer 15% HP damage. So this obviously just a huge exposition of her life drain, of her life steal, taking 15% HP from the rest of her companions to do a very powerful full HP heal and remove mortality debuffs. Now again, she is not a character with 45 HP, she has 15, so to full heal and remove mortality debuffs is powerful, but with a low health pool, not as powerful. So next in is Beautiful Parasite. This is actually a typo here, according to Von Krolok. Time cost 2, self only, 45% damage for the next 4 battles, but one companion minus 90% damage for the next 4 battles. A really cool idea in playing on the whole power drain theme here. I have typically used this on, say, something like a Vestal, which has basically been a dedicated healer, maybe really infrequently using, say, Judgment or something. To get 45% damage for the next 4 battles at time cost 2 is pretty nice in trade for basically turning, say, something like a Vestal into a dud hitter. Now we're going to skip Blix Trix for the moment and just talk about just one kiss. Time cost 2, one companion minus 40 stress, but they get a Horrify of 1 stress over 30, and if religious, plus 15 stress. To reduce a companion's stress by minus 40 for time cost 2 is pretty stellar. That is, say, pretty comparable to using something like Lash's Solace on the flag for minus 50 for time cost 3. However, they do get the plus 1 stress over 30 Horrify. So as long as you've got Laudanum or some ability, some means of removing that horror, this is a pretty nice take-along for stress healing. So that brings us then to the last and most interesting camping ability on the Succubus, which is Blix Trix. Blix Trix is time cost 0, self-only, contract a demon. You're going to reduce Torchlight by a full torch, 25, and take 20% HP damage off of a companion. Now, essentially what you're doing is you're contracting a demon, and that means you're generating a kind of provision. These do not stack in your inventory, which is unfortunate, but makes sense because they are kind of powerful. You can use this 3 times each camp for no cost, but the cost really is Torchlight and 20% HP of a companion. And what these demons do is you take this demon provision with you into combat, you use it on any member of your group in combat, and it has a whole host of different kinds of effects, up to 25 different effects, 13 which are beneficial and 12 which are bad, but it does have a higher chance to land a beneficial effect. All good effects cure you from curable debuffs, horror, poison, and bleed, and each one has benefits like stealth, heals over time, reflections, aegis, resistances, etc. However, this particular quirk that you can get will actually evolve over time should the demon decide to change its mind. And instead you will get things like a reduced virtue chance and increased ambush chance. So you're really rolling the dice here and seeing what kind of a beneficial or negative effect you're going to be placing depending on just whatever sort of capricious will the demon has when you contract it. That's going to do it for this brief overview of the Succubus class. Big congratulations to Carnifex, Von Krolok, Monk Wolf, Jazz, and Saz, who have made something that I think is really in the vein of Cosmic Horror and H.P. Lovecraft, and done it in a fairly tasteful way with a lot of really interesting and unique mechanics. As always, I'll have a link to download the Succubus from Steam, in addition to her standalone district mod, the Cursed Ground, just below the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the design of this class, how things feel, what it's like to use Protect Your Goddess, and how much you're enjoying her. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more mod overviews and everything Darkest Dungeon. We'll see you next time.